What's up everybody, it's Mark Vandenbroek and welcome to a brand new video. I've said it a lot and I'm gonna say it again. In a lot of videos we've been talking about recognition because the number one job for you as a storyteller, a speaker, someone who has to present a lot in meetings, has to do sales pitches, your number one job is not just to tell your story, but to tell your story in such a way that your audience recognizes themselves and their story in your story. That's the number one. There's a lot of things you have to do as a storyteller, but that's your number one focus. And I call it in previous videos, I call it getting the nod. Getting the nod. Having your audience definitely in the beginning sitting in front of you and being like, yeah, that's me. That's my world. That's exactly what I'm bumping into. That's what I was thinking. Yeah. And give them the feeling that you understand how their world works, that you have seen it before and that they can connect with you. Because the more they recognize themselves in your story, the more they recognize it, the more they trust it. And what we trust, we want to give attention. That's the basic idea of everything in life. If we trust it, we want to give it attention. So your job is to create that trust as fast as possible. But there is a trap. There is a trap you want to avoid. Every time I'm talking about this in workshops, there was one thing that comes up and it's a really normal reaction. Also something I have to watch out for, and you don't want to fall into that trap or you'll lose trust immediately and you'll get the opposite effect of what you're trying to achieve with your recognition and creating that context, their world that your audience is living in. And what that trap is and how to avoid it, that's what this video is about. So without further ado, let's dive right in and find out what it is. Let's go.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
And the thing that I'm talking about is when we're trying to convince the other person and show the other person that we know how their world works and make sure that we create that recognition, is that we say the following. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're feeling. I know what you're thinking right now, what's going on in your head. I know what is going on in your world. That might be the case. And if you did your preparation as a storyteller right, that is the case because you do know what's going on in people's world and what they're thinking, and definitely if you have the experience. But there's this weird thing with us human beings. We want to be autonomous and we want to be unique. So when someone says to us, I know how you feel. I know what you think. I know what's going on in your head, in your world. We don't want to hear it. Definitely the I know. You don't know. The audience will be like, you don't know. Because a wall will go up and they're like, you do not know. Even though you know. This might be a bit confusing, but you don't want to use those specific words. So a lot of people that hear me talk about recognition and when they do an exercise in a workshop, the first thing, like I said, normal reaction, also a trap for me, is I know what you're thinking. I know what your world is about. And immediately the audience is like, you don't know. And definitely if you're a salesperson or when you're a speaker on stage and they don't know you and they have never heard of you or they haven't encountered you before, you're a stranger. And when a stranger comes on and says, I know, most people will react, you don't know. And then you lose trust. You lose the very thing you're trying to create, that connection where people, the wall goes up and like, whew, this person thinks he knows, we'll see about that. So do not use those words. Often used, including me. I'm not judging. I do the same when I'm unguarded in a conversation. I sometimes also say, and even in my videos, I know what you're thinking right now. I know what you're doing. Like I said, it's a perfect normal, but you want to avoid it. The thing you want to do is flip it around because, like I said, if you did your preparation right, you exactly know what their world is about. You're going to keep it more vague, more general. And what that does is you give your audience the choice, the opportunity, the chance to decide for themselves, do you as a speaker, as a storyteller, know what my world is about? And what does that look like? Instead of saying, I know what you're thinking, I know what your world is about, you will say, what I see a lot of people do, what I often encounter in this industry, what is a common mistake made by engineers, not saying this audience, but what I see in my projects and my experience, it's the same thing. You're actually saying, I know what you're bumping into, I know the mistakes that you're making, I know what you're doing, but I keep it vague. I've seen other people do this. I've seen it across the industry. It's an average. It's something I noticed in my past experiences in the world that links to your world, but without saying that the audience in front of me is experiencing that. is thinking that, is making those mistakes. And what that does, like I said, is that the audience is thinking, is this me? Am I that engineer? Am I the one doing my project like that? Is this my industry? And often, again, I keep repeating myself, often when you do your preparation right, the persons in the audience or the people in front of you will be like, yeah, the nod. Exactly. That's what we're bumping into. We also made that mistake. But you're now not telling them that you know what they're thinking, what mistakes they're making. You give them the opportunity to choose and decide for themselves. And if you've done that right, people will be like, yep, indeed, I admit it. I'm one of those people. That's my industry. And you can move on. Very minor, subtle difference. It's in the wording, but it decides between do you get the trust attention or does a wall go up? Or you go a step further and you just talk about yourself and be like, what I often do, it's what I often feel. And then again, you give the choice to the audience. Do you also? Did your preparation right? You know the audience will be like, yeah, that's me. Simple example, you have a TED Talk, great TED Talk about procrastination. And when that person is talking, they say, I studied like this. I postponed every work I had at my first job during my internships. And you see the audience thinking, yeah, I also did that. Yeah, that's also how I work. Giving them the opportunity to choose. And if you did your job right, that will be the case and you will get the nod. So don't fall into the I know trap. In any case, personal life, business life, and it will take you a long way. Hope it helps. I was Marnik van den Broek. Like the video, subscribe, and see you for future videos. Bye-bye.
Are you listening? Damn.